In the quiet rural town of Ravenswood, nestled deep within the dense forests of the Appalachian Mountains, a sinister legend whispered among the townsfolk. They spoke of the Hollow Man, a vengeful spirit said to haunt the ancient, overgrown cemetery on the outskirts of town. The cemetery was avoided by all, especially after dark, for those who ventured there at night often disappeared, never to be seen again. One crisp autumn evening, as the full moon cast an eerie glow over the landscape, a group of teenagers decided to test their courage. Among them were Sarah, Jake, and Emily, friends since childhood and known for their daring escapades. They had heard the stories of the Hollow Man but dismissed them as mere superstition. Armed with flashlights and a Ouija board, they set out for the cemetery, eager to debunk the myth once and for all. The iron gate of the cemetery creaked open, its rusty hinges groaning in protest. The air grew colder as they stepped inside, the towering oaks casting long, twisted shadows across the tombstones. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. "Are you sure about this?" Emily whispered, her breath visible in the chilly air. "Come on, Em," Jake said, trying to sound confident. "It's just an old cemetery. There's no such thing as ghosts." Sarah, always the bravest of the trio, led the way to a clearing in the center of the cemetery. They laid the Ouija board on a flat tombstone and sat around it, the beam of their flashlights creating a small island of light in the sea of darkness. "All right," Sarah said, placing her fingers on the planchette. "Let's see if the Hollow Man is real." Reluctantly, Jake and Emily joined her, their fingers touching the planchette. Sarah began to ask questions, her voice steady despite the unease gnawing at her. "Is anyone here with us?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly the planchette began to move. Emily gasped, pulling her hand away. "Don't be scared," Sarah said, though her heart was pounding. "It's probably just our imagination." But the planchette continued to move, spelling out a chilling message, IAMHERE. The air grew colder still, and a foul odor permeated the clearing. The flashlights flickered, casting strange, shifting shadows. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl echoed through the cemetery. "What was that?" Jake whispered, his bravado gone. Before anyone could answer, the growl grew louder, more menacing. Out of the shadows emerged a figure, tall and gaunt, with hollow, empty eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. His skin was pale and stretched tight over his bones, and he moved with an unnatural, jerky motion. "The Hollow Man," Emily breathed, her voice trembling. The figure advanced toward them, his mouth opening in a silent scream. Paralyzed with fear, the teenagers could only watch as he drew nearer. Then, with a sudden violent motion, he lunged at Sarah. In a panic, Jake grabbed a flashlight and swung it at the Hollow Man, but it passed through him as if he were made of smoke. The Hollow Man's eyes locked onto Jake, and he felt an icy grip around his throat, lifting him off the ground. Emily screamed, snapping Sarah out of her trance. She grabbed Emily's hand, and together they fled, leaving Jake struggling in the Hollow Man's grasp. The cemetery seemed to warp around them, the tombstones twisting and turning, making it impossible to find the gate. Desperation drove them forward, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Behind them, Jake's strangled cries faded into silence. At last, they stumbled upon the gate, throwing it open and collapsing onto the ground outside. The town was eerily quiet as they ran back to Ravenswood, their hearts heavy with guilt and terror. The townsfolk never found Jake, and the legend of the Hollow Man grew stronger, the old cemetery claiming yet another victim. Sarah and Emily never spoke of that night again, but the memory haunted them for the rest of their lives. They knew the Hollow Man was real, and they knew he was still out there, waiting for the next group of foolish souls to wander into his domain.